The first time I'm joining FALE. I'm not
Sorry about that.
expecting you to go in. Yeah, it's okay. I'm not expecting you to go in detail just for my elaboration, since all the other members are quite familiar. But probably just before you begin, just a couple of lines for as a general overview would help. Thank you.
Sure, not a problem. Okay, where shall I start? I think I'll start here. So, Fale Pacifica, Josiah Children would be, Osman would be a better person to do this. So I'll just take you very briefly that Fale is the regional hub in the Pacific for Start Network. It's housed under Piango. And the long form for FALE is Facility Aiding Locally Led Engagement. That is FALE. And it's also depicts the traditional hut, the traditional Hawaiian hut. And that's how we come up with the FALE. So it's kind of like a facility or house or an avenue that support that aided locally led engagement, referring to humanitarian. The work that Start Network and its members, including Oxfam, does in the Pacific. So this is a very brief on kind of like a needs analysis, the problem statement that brings about the need for us to have a hub. I know that Oxfam, the members we send out the invitation to those are the members of the Start network in Fiji. And Weather Hub, it speaks volume of how we're responding to disaster and the current humanitarian system. And also, I know that most of the term that you're well familiar with, AAP, our accountability to affected population, and also, leaving no one behind. So how the system or the coordination platform is decentralized into different regions. And I know that it was the few other organizations that bid for it, and Bianco was fortunate to be selected. And there are few reasons for that, and I know that Oxfam and other members can attest to it that Piango have network right across the Pacific, and that is one of the reasons why I assume that was one of the reasons why they were short listed and given the opportunity. Josiah Osman, please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong somewhere. So the introduction of the FALE, as I was talking about, how do we shift the power? How do we decentralize from Start Network? And Piango responded with over 40 other applicants, and those are the reason why the some of the points on that, and then what we're doing right now is co-create, in the process of Start Network and Piango co-creating the hub. Piango then did not only stop at the regional level, but also come down to the national level. So the vision of the hub is that a resilient Pacific that leads with local, well-informed, and technically structured solution to socio-economic and environmental changes with a secured financial base, courage, and capacity to adapt. The impact, a rapid, quality, efficient, and inclusive response that meets the need of affected people through innovative and locally led coordination. As I alluded to, our accountability to affected population, also locally led coordination that responds better to affected people in times of disaster. The outcome indicators, a well-informed and technically structured humanitarian system that responds rapid to targeted affected communities. Those are the three main concepts in the thinking behind having the Pacific Hub, or what we call the FALE Pacific. The key priorities, I alluded to earlier about the structure of the existing structure of Piango. As you can see on your left, you have the council, the board, the regional office, that is Piango, the secretariat, and then you have the NLU, or the National Liaison Unit, which one of them is Fiji. Fiji Council of Social Services, or of course in Fiji. So in line with that, the FALE is aspired to sink well into that existing structure. So you'll see that equivalent, while you have Start Network, the equivalent to Piango board are the FALE the steering committee. So these are the representative of the Pacific members of Piango. And then you have the FALE Pacific, that sits with the regional office or at the secretariat. And the current coordinator is Akmal Ali. And then you have the national FALE, or where Fiji, the FALE Fiji is housed under FCOS. And this is the thinking behind using the existing structure of Piangwe. While Piangwe have the National Liaison Unit, so FALE uses that existing structure to help coordinate or to decentralize the coordination, not only to be at the national level, but down to the locally led at the national level Pacific. So the four piloting countries are Tonga, Fiji, Solomon Islands, and Vanuatu. One of the things that came up is the well-informed CSO humanitarian structure. At the national level, we have different structure. Of course, structure is different from CSFT in Tonga. So how do we localize and contextualize the engagement down at that level? And then the other one is we're looking at skills, building skill sets of our volunteers, locally led men, our local actors are taking the lead. So this is one of the things that we've been talking about, empowering the community. And I know that it's an ongoing work that we're doing. I acknowledge those who have just joined us, Plan International, Oxfam. Of course, we are building the capacity of our local volunteers, of our community leaders, for them to take action and to take lead in in their action. I got a point iPhone. I'm not sure who's joining us iPhone. Maybe uh, you can change your name, or maybe after this, then I can. Oh, that's Drew. Thank you, Drew, for joining. So yes, Samoa. So added to the four right now is Samoa. Have endorsed for their FALE last week. So right now there's five in the Pacific. So the financing facility, while FALE is a hub, a regional hub, it's also looking at being a financing facility, and that is anticipatory fund, community trigger response fund, and also the FALE fund. So those three different components of the financing facility. How do we help financing the FALE as an institution, or as a facility, but also the community triggers response. While we are engaged, while we are building the capacity of our volunteers in the community and leaders, how do we also provide some support in terms of response fund when there are triggers that bottoms up approach triggers from the so that's very briefly, Doreen, and those of you joining us about FALE in general. And before we go into FALE Fiji, I must apologize that I forgot to allow time for introduction. And I know that few of us have just joined us later as well. So I'll leave this time for introduction for those of you joining us, and maybe we'll start from Doreen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Joe. And a very, very good morning Blavinaka to everybody. And I think from us first, I would like to say very glad that this meeting actually started. So big thanks to Vani and the team for initiating this. I think many of us were looking forward to the discussions, especially how we can uh, move on, positively for and plan and think for the rest of the year, and especially the discussions that will come out or generate from these meetings. So I'm Doreen Narayan, and I'm from Oxfam in the Pacific. And I joined Oxfam quite recently, which was November, December, towards end of November last year. So I work as the AHP Disaster Ready Project Manager for Fiji. And I think thank you very much for including me in these discussions, and happy to be here. Sorry, Joe, you gave the online option. So maybe if you chop that option off, we will certainly be there in person sitting right beside you. Daga.
I'll definitely keep that on mind for the next meeting. Thank you, Doreen. Welcome, Doreen. I'll pass this time to Josefa.
Hey, Bulunaka all. Josefa here from Plan International Fiji. I echo the same comments by Doreen. Really keen to see how this will evolve. I particularly like the guidance through Josiah's email that this meeting will talk about the TOR, work plan, and other areas of synergies that we can fill in so that we can make this happen. So yeah, it's exciting opportunities ahead. Again, there are other opportunities that we can take to this. There continues to be, arising opportunities or emerging opportunities rather, on anticipatory action than others. And so it's at least good to see where we can, link and then tie in those other opportunities with this, so that we, ride on that momentum and support our vulnerable communities better. Thank you.
Thank you, so, Josiah Osborne and Siali.
Good night, everyone. Josiah from Yangon, joining in on behalf of Akmal, our FALE coordinator, who is away in a technical working group, ERP technical working group on water security in Accra.
Thank you, Josiah. Also with us is Siali. She's currently in a meeting, but she'll participate in silence. Thank you, Siali. Welcome, Siali, and also Josiah Osborne. Mesaki, would like to say hi? Oh, okay.
My name is Tevita Ebo, and I'm living in from the FCOS Western Office here in Lutoka.
Thank you, Te. Welcome, Te. Okay, thank you for those of us joining. Tevita is our there's two officers currently they're looking after FALE with FCOS, and Te is looking is the assistant coordinator that also look after our operation in the Western Division currently. So welcome, Tevita, and welcome as well to those of you who have joined us as well. So thank you, Tucho, for sharing that expectation, and also, ways in which we can work together, the other funding facilities that might be available. And thank you, Doreen, as well, for your anticipation to join. I hope that next time we will not, we will try and go away with a Zoom so that we can meet in person and get things rolling from there. Moving on, unless there's any other things that anyone would like to share with us before we move on to our discussion. I'll take the silence as a no. So I just want to provide a very brief overview of or kind of like a history for what have we done so far for FALE Viti. So FALE Viti was launched last year. It was launched by Ciale during our Development Effectiveness Week, and also it coincided with our AGM. So that was in 24th July last year. Those are a few of the things that we've done. Talanoa sessions and participate in the World Humanitarian Day celebrations. And we've conducted a virtual Talanoa with our members, trying to socialize the vision of the hub and the current humanitarian tool that we have. And in addition to that, the Talanoa linkages, discuss the linkages of the hub to humanitarian standard codes and share the 6 guiding documents. Contribute to FCOS mandate rule under the Natural Disaster Management Act. So the guiding documents, I know that none of us is a stranger to these documents. FCOS in-house, we have our Code of Accountability, and recently, and also in 2019, the Fiji CSO Humanitarian Protocol and Directory with the support of HP. And earlier this year, we now have the Fiji CSO Humanitarian Code of Conduct, and also the National CSO Humanitarian Reporting Form, or the Community Observation Report, which was endorsed by HP partners. And the additional documents to that, or guiding documents to that, are the Fiji CSO Contingency Plan, the draft CSO Contingency Plan, and the contextualized localization framework for Fiji, which we are currently piloting under the HP as well. So for those of us who are joining in today, if you have any questions regarding any of those documents, I know that we are no stranger to any of them that we are well aware of. So those are the guiding documents that FALE Viti aspire to use to help us with not only the establishment, but how do we carry on with this with the facility. And those are some of the pictures from last year during the World Humanitarian Day celebration. We helped, it helped us to showcase some of the works that we're doing that have linkages directly to the setup of the FALE Viti Hub. More like sharing the story of FCOS on how we're empowering locally led initiative through our current network. As you can see on the second picture, on the picture on your right, you see Ananai with the FCOS vest. That is normally what we do in the showcase. We bring our community leaders, we introduce very briefly, then we pass it to them for them to tell the stories on how community leaders are taking the lead role in the humanitarian response. So that's briefly the work so far that we've done for FALE. And where does this two meet? How does FALE and our work on the localization framework meet? So last year as well, within the same time in July, we launched our contextualized localization framework. And while we aspire to support locally led initiatives through FALE, the localization framework actually recognizes and already set in place ways in which we help to recognize and acknowledge the existing structure that already existed locally. The initiative itself recognizing DCOS as an important local structure of FCOS in the disaster preparedness and readiness, and that will strengthen community-based coordination and response. And it will also allow FCOS to measure and use the indicators and pathway provided in the framework. So that's while it might have been a separate funded project, but we saw that the localization framework sits in well within our FALE. So that's a long story short on using that our work on localization to support the establishment of FALE. So the FALE Viti forum, that is what we're having now. I must apologize that it has taken a little bit of time for us to meet and to set up a meeting. We've sent out a few invites earlier, and again from our end, we apologize for postponing that meeting even at the 11th hour, and for all the inconvenience that that might have caused. So for this forum, I know that I talked about how we're going to move forward with the TOR. We had a discussion with Vani on maybe why don't we draft a TOR and bring it to the team. I apologize that I will disappoint you with that. We thought that it's better that we have some level footing and some level understanding with the START network members who are here in Fiji, for us to understand better on how to shape the TOR. So the TOR is going to be a working document for us, which we should be able to start the draft from FCOS and share it with the members so that we can all have our say on how the FALE Viti is going to take shape. So on the future plan, that's what we're having now. The objective of this discussion is basically to give us to give FCOS not only the mandate but the ideas on how the terms of reference is going to be drafted. The two main things that we're looking at from this discussion, and that is the protocol for activation. I know that all of us, we know by the back of our hands the protocol of activation in Fiji, but we're looking at, I alluded to earlier, the community activation protocol. How do we engage? How do we ensure that the activations of this is going to be empowered by the community that we serve? And the second one is on membership decision. You might be wondering, why do we limit our invitation to only a few? As you can see on the bottom left, those are the members, the current members of START Network that are already doing work in Fiji. CARE, we also have HelpAge International, that is also and Oxfam, have Plan International, Save the Children, and we have IFRC as an SC part. But our interest was actually on the current members, and that is Save the Children, Plan International, Oxfam, HelpAge, and CARE International. So I'm so thankful for Oxfam and also Plan International for attending. So the second part of our discussion today is around membership decision on how the FALE is going to, are we going to keep the membership at the current level, or we're going to open it up for the local NGOs as well in that sense. And so that basically the two main objectives of the discussion today. And out of it, we will draft a protocol, not a protocol, a TOR, and share it with everyone for inputs on that. Any questions so far, or any point of clarification? I'll take that as a no. Yes, Yale, please go ahead.
Okay, now I'm running away from stepping out of the meeting room. I just want to perhaps share perhaps share a bit of plan from the FALE Pacifica that we have just been informed through the Pacific Resilience Framework Committee that the Pacific Resilience meeting will be happening on the 11th to the 13th of October. So the FALE Pacifica is hoping that this is, as you all know, that we had, you know, our FALE Fiji, Vanuatu, they're building their FALE, contextualizing that to their own system. But we still trying to figure out how we fit in the, well, those FALE, country FALE, going to inform how we are going to structured our FALE Pacifica. The slide that Josiah shared about the structures of Piango, that's the conceptual, yes, the structure there, that's the conceptual phase in terms of this is how we have actually put our thinking into the FALE structure. But each of the FALE, national FALE, are doing that in their own, they contextualize it to fit into their own priorities of their own FALE, country FALE. So the opportunity of the Pacific Resilience meeting on the 11th to the 13th of October, we are working towards having some kind of a side event or a parallel event that we will be convening to bring all the relevant stakeholders that has a vested interest in the Pacific FALE. This means that we will bring our FALE, country FALE together, but also Akmal, who's leading this work with Piango, is already now having, probably this is the second or third round of one-to-one conversation with some of the INGOs that are part of the START network, but they're also present here in Fiji or have some program that are either managing from Australia or New Zealand. So we are doing that kind of mapping of those that are stakeholders of INGOs that have keen interest, just to check whether they're keen to be part of the designing of what the FALE Pacifica would look like. So I just wanted to put that forward for Radu Joe and the representative from Oxfam, perhaps, that they might start thinking about whether this is a space that we can take up as a Pacific regional platform to convene ourselves in terms of all our experiences working at the country level. How does that feed in to inform setting up of the FALE Pacifica? Minaka Josiah Tokoni.
Thank you, Siale. Thank you for that clarification and providing a more solid background on setting up of FALE. I'll pass this time to Joe. Maybe I think the first discussion that we can have now is now in anticipating a community community activation plan. Maybe before I do that, with FCOS, I know that Doreen and Tucho, you're well aware of our community observation report, and that is also endorsed under the HP. So I know that there is an activation plan in the government But for us, as of course, alluded to by Siale, how do we contextualize that in our national level? We were hoping that um, when we're discussing protocol for activation, to use a community activation, community observation report as our activation protocol in the community. Few of the experiences that we've had, just allow me to share that a bit. That is in Ba, the recent flooding in Ba. While there was no activations from the government, while they were still waiting around, we've already activated it, of course, because of the reports that we were receiving, that we started to receive from Badikos. And Tia is here with us and can also share more on that and how that helps to actually inform the government on what's happening on the ground. So that is a very simple example on the bottom-up approach, utilizing DCOS when you talk about activation plan. That is the suggestion that we're putting forth from FCOS. I'd like to give this time to Doreen and also to Cho, if you'd like to share more on that point.
Joe, I just put in a comment
Thanks,
in the chat. Yeah, just coming back to Ciala's point on the membership and others who may be keen to join. I think since the FALE was launched in July, that's correct, you mentioned last year. I think there should be an opportunity for other interested NGOs who are quite keen to join the FALE, should be given that opportunity to join in. But perhaps what we could do is give it a timeline for membership, so organizations can respect that timeline, as the TOR is quite an important document to be formulated quite soon. That would be like the guiding document for the FALE members. So my suggestion would be probably we could set a timeline and see who else is interested before we conclude the work on TOR, because there are a lot of other good NGOs out there who do marvelous work in humanitarian sector, and I think an opportunity should be given for their hard work to be recognized, and more importantly, to give more credibility to our locally led vision, that works in close partnerships with a number of key organizations rather than just a few. Thank you. Just adding to that point there, Pinaka.
Thank you for that, Doreen. I'm noting that down. To Cho.
Thank you, Sir. Yeah, I think at the onset, it'll be good if we can sort of understand what the other country FALEs are operating under. Because if we use activation as an example, it's something consistent across all countries, therefore creating more stability within FALE or AHP per se. So, sorry, let me backpedal here. Given that you've used the activation as an example, I'll be happy to talk on the activation and see how we can link it to the Viti FALE forum, or rather the Viti FALE usage of the funds, etc. So, yeah, number one is, we understand that there are FALEs being established, endorsed across other Pacific Island countries. Suffice to say, I know for certain Tonga FALE has even gone to the extent of, actually providing tangible response/support to communities. So how have they operated in their own countries? I think there's lesson learned from that, given that these countries are sort of the front runners for us. So yeah, it'll be good to understand what they currently have working, what's working well, what's not, so that we can sort of reflect that for how we plan to do it here in Fiji. Right, that would be my first sort of response to that. In addition to this is, if you're talking about activation, it all boils down to the funding. So the funding envelope is the determinant factor here. There are other triggers when it comes to activation. One is that it needs to be the main trigger there is the national government declaring a state of emergency, a state of natural disaster. That then triggers the activation to actually come into place. So again, with the FALE, how are there triggers in place, you know? And then we really need to contextualize this, because for activation, the other triggers there is that activation only occurs with disasters that have particularly tropical cyclones that are category 3 upwards. So anything below cat 3, so if it's a cat 1 or cat 2, it will not apply. So maybe that's where we fit in, you know, through this, because our communities, they suffer, whether it be a cat 1 to cat 5, they suffer. And we really need to, as alluded to by Siale, we really need to contextualize this. And I think that's where the START network, you know, comes in very strongly as the gap filler for activation. So again, that's another structure in itself that we need to understand. How does the START network operate? So the START network operate, you know, through its members. So members, they contribute funds to the pooled sort of envelope. Okay, and then within those pooled envelope, there are categories of how they issue funding. So there's envelope for less than 800,000, so forth. So again, for our Viti FALE, you know, do we have a range in terms of regarding the different intensities / different levels, different types of disasters that we face? Is there a range? You know, so already at the back of our mind, we should be working proactively in identifying things like gender in brief or gender brief, for instance, right? So that's just one example. So we have this information in place, already collected, and then quite rather it's up-to-date information. And so when a disaster is triggered, we know for certain that there's X amount or X number of female population in Wonolevu, and therefore this type of support is needed, right? Because we know for certain that during times of disasters, it takes quite a while to collect the initial damage assessment. To collect is one thing, to release the initial damage assessment report is another. And so this is where you had alluded to say, you know, they're using the community-based reports, particularly the one that comes through the DCOSs, and those are gold, you know. So, you know, are those the type of information that we really need to have in hand? And then, you know, apart from that, it's these different types of briefs. So we look at a very inclusive lens as well. It's not just about you know, looking at the infrastructure, looking at the livelihoods, but we also need to wear that inclusive hat to understand, right, the different types of impairments spread across Fiji. Okay, so if a disaster happens, how do we support persons with disabilities? And keeping in mind, there are 5 different types of impairments, so different interventions go to different types of impairments. Whereas some them will be multiple impairments. Forgive me, Jose, I'm just, you know, talking all over the shop, but it's these types of work behind the scene is critical for us to establish a well-designed plan, or rather well-designed FALE, so that, you know, we act as that. I would, you know, use the FALE to act as the initial response / initial breathing support before we then go for higher funding sources per se, you know. Because there's ECHO, there's START, there's DFAT activation, and of course then there comes the donors. And then mostly when the donors write in, it's mostly for recovery or long-term or medium response. But for an immediate response, this FALE is suitable for our context. So again, just taking that into consideration. Further to this is the again, as I mentioned, the funding. And so to say, if you could just go back to that slide where it shows the different types of fund through anticipatory, that one, right? So the FALE, yes, the FALE financing facility. Yeah? So anticipatory funds, community trigger response funds, and FALE fund. It'll be good if we can, just unpack this a little bit more in detail, so that we know, what they entail. Because if we, come in as members, what do members bring to the table? That's another thing. And then this, I speak of this because of the START network context. Because for the START network, our sort of lead ANGO leads who are based internationally, they are the ones who are forking in funds to support the START network, to have that ability to cushion the request that will come in through the disaster affected communities. And so will we have a similar thing, or are we completely reliant on grant / donor funds? So again, the question of sustainability comes to mind when we think, okay, how, if we look at the long-term implementation of the FALE, how sustainable is it? Will it continue to be reliant on donor funds? And therefore, if it's donor funds, it's actually tied to, a proposal, and the proposals are tied to objectives. So again, how do we work around that to bring it back to the FALE concept, which we have neatly, put it out here in this form of organogram. Yeah? If we have like locally raised funds through membership-driven support, how does that work, both legally and administratively? How do we take that into consideration? So again, these are the types of not complexities, but the beauty that we will need to uncover, because we know for certain that we will need this. We need something local. We need something seasoned with a lot of local flavor. And again, it's how we run it. And so the sustainability factor is my last component that we really need to carefully think on as we pull this together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tucho. Yes, Ciel, I was going to ask if you can respond to those few things from Tucho. Please go ahead, Ciel.
Thank you, Chester. Vinaka Ratujo, I'm not going to respond to all the things that Ratujo had shared, because this is exactly why we need to have ongoing talanoa about how we are setting up the FALE at the country level, to bring that kind of brainstorming, asking ourselves some of those questions. Do we, to consider in terms of how we continue to build the FALE. Just the FALE financing facility that you see in front of you on the slide. As I said, again, this has been the when we work with the STAR network to bring this concept into bring life to this kind of conceptual idea. This is what we had in mind, and it was a response to a need where we recognize that in the humanitarian space, a lot of our local actors do not access funding as easily as it should be for them to be able to coordinate themselves and make sure that the margin of the how government is responding that we have seen in most countries, it usually takes government like 3 days to sort themselves out and do the logistics before they do deployment and all that kind of work. So there should be a fund that is available, readily available, pre-positions in country, so that when that comes to being in any disaster response, that resources is available to get them organized, get them on the field, and do and while we are all playing a role to make sure that resources are made available, as Radu just said. So this has been really the three areas that we had put our focus in trying to develop and come up with something that is best suited for countries. An anticipatory fund, which means that we already anticipated that this disaster is going to happen. How does Piango from a regional level make sure that we pre-position the money to FCOS if the disaster is in Fiji or in Tonga or wherever the country FALE might be. And the other one is the community trigger response, and Raju Joe, you correctly put it. Government declare emergency is like the national. What we would like to see our national FALE has is to come up with your own trigger points. Either it comes from the observation report, where that the FALE as a collective can make those decisions. And in Fiji, you will know exactly where to place it in terms whether it's at the provincial level. Do you have to get some endorsement from the provincial officials? But something that we can actually work towards validating by government. But we know that that this is just us trying to put a structure into a system that is already working. While we don't recognize that there's a flooding in Ba, and they're sending their observation report to FCOS, who want to make sure that it goes to the relevant authority. The community of Ba are already sharing whatever they had with their neighbors, and the churches maybe are doing already something at the community. So it's not like that this is something that we are building on something new. It's already happening. We're just like looking at what is it that is working for them, and what we need to make a decision in the FALE to say what would be our trigger point. Who is going to send us the message to say there's something happening in Ba? Do we need to respond to that? And then decide together as a collective. And again, is going to be part of the FALE Fiji conversation. And the other point that I just want to share to finish it off before giving the space to the others is the perhaps reflection as we see the different country FALE developing their FALE, you start to see a lot of the contextualizing, their traditional system consideration comes to the forefront. One of the things that has been quite interested in our learning from the Tonga FALE was the fact that, the way that I have seen how it has played off, it's like, Josiah, how our community, we are so well known for our own unwritten logistic work. A birthday or a funeral or an event, we're celebrating something within our family context, if we could use that, where each of our family or our kainga or our relatives will they make the announcement that there's one event that is happening in wherever. Immediately everyone will get up and go to that event with something that they will be contributing. It's so culturally, we have been practicing it for a long time, and it's still happening now. So in Tonga, they are starting to build on that kind of concept, where they call it in Tonga makawhetoriaki, and they are trying to build their FALE on that, which means that before you look outside for donor funding to come in. Say, for example, the members of the FALE in Tonga, there are like 15 of them. When they started to respond, they see all the 15 groups will bring in something as a contribution. And then they come in there, and then it's just like in our family functions, we come in there, bring all of our contributions, put in there, do our save or whatever we do, and all that comes into the family circle. And each of us know that we have a role to play. And that contribution, we are dividing that up and said, okay, those that are looking after the catering, this is how much you can use. So you decide together, and then you start dishing out the resources to each of your members to implement or take charge of how it's going to be making sure that why we are here in this particular event is done well. So the Tonga FALE is starting to build on that. And so is the FALE concept is now starting to expand, like it's a partnership platform. And each of the partners has to bring in something. If you don't have money, you bring in your expertise. If you don't have your expertise, you bring in another level of network that you bring along, and then you decide together, and then you start sharing the responsibility to make sure you take that forward. Just sharing that from the Tonga FALE is how I'm quite find it interesting how they're starting to bring some of the traditional practices that they see that is happening in our community to see whether that can fit into how they develop their FALE. But one of the things that the Tongan are very strong in their FALE is that, you look outside much later in the process. Right now, we just have to find what is it that we are doing already that can fit in. And so, Rajucho mentioned how we need to bring some of the other examples from the other FALE work. And I think that's something that Josiah, that we will be able from Piango to work a little bit more in sharing those stories from how the Atafale has started. We have Vanuatu, which was an interesting one with the TC, the double disaster that they had with the earthquake in Solomon Islands, and now Samoa is keen to get started. Kiribati is on the way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shirley, for those more providing clarity into the discussions, and for sharing stories from Tonga and the work around Pacific as well. Yes, Tucho, the discussion on membership, if we are to expand on that, I think it's more than just who's coming to the table, and as Salif put it, but more of like what do we have that we want to bring on the table. So yeah, Tucho, I'm gonna give it to you. And maybe Sally, is that your hand from before, or you would like to say anything in addition to that? We will just give it to Tucho. Go ahead, Tucho.
Yeah, thank you, Josiah, and then thank you, Sally, for clearly unpacking that more in detail. Just from hearing the good work done in Tonga, and then the others that you've mentioned, it's clear for me in particular that we can actually use FALE for quick response activations. And when I say quick, like quick, because we will need to measure ourselves in time windows, and so 72 hours before an event or a disaster, reports are already coming in, and then 24 hours before the disaster, again, still reports are coming in. These are, and these are some of the strengths of the DCOSs, because they provide this to FCOS, and at least from FCOS's end, they share it with all the other CSOs. And so again, that could be the trigger And what's more important here is that after an event, these reports, they keep coming in. And so just that those information alone, I would say that they can satisfy some of our internal triggers within Plan International. And so for your FYI, within Plan International, we have internal funding envelopes to respond to emergencies. And this is only accessed by Plan International offices. However, we can channel it towards the FALE for a quick, emergency response. But we will need those data, those information within a 72-hour window to quickly develop a proposal and then identify how the contractual obligations will work. Maybe we can identify that even early on during peace times. We can add that to our list as well. Josiah, is the how will the contractual obligation will work between the members and that of the FALE. Is it through Piango or through FCOS? So that we are clear from our end that the funds that we'll be able to provide to the FALE, they will be acquitted and reported. Yeah. Because from our end, we report to our internal donors as well. So again, those that's another layer to the onion. In addition to this, if we look at how we have grown in the humanitarian space, particularly here in Fiji, we continue to say that we will really need to ensure that we abide and adhere and then know wholeheartedly the core humanitarian standards. And so for those who are actually rolling out the implementation, have they received any safeguarding training? Because again, these are the language of donors. These are the language of humanitarians, that it ensures we do no harm, but at the same time, it ensures that we provide a just support to the affected communities, the disaster affected communities. So again, we should include within the FALE funding opportunities for training. So if we intend to use the DCOS, as the boots on the ground, will actually facilitate the emergency response, then are those boots on the ground, have they been sensitized to safeguarding? Have they been sensitized on child protection, et cetera, et cetera? So again, we really need to, map out what are those key sort of not requirements, but rather key components to an effective humanitarian response, and then how best we can streamline that down through the boots on the ground, so that we tick all the boxes, especially if we're using donor or internal funds. Because while there might be rules and parameters within the FALE, behind each member, those who they will potentially source funding from, they have their own sets of rules. And so we really need to ensure that we, across the board, so that we meet each other's mandates and then objectives. So you just wanted to flag that as well while we are continuing this discussion. Over.
Thank you, Tucho. Yes, that is the idea of having this this forum. Having that discussions on not only how but who. If you in my previous slide, one of the things that we're also looking at is not only membership, but also capacity building, and also how do we share the responsibility. I know that there are ongoing discussion that we have, ongoing project as well, that look into that. But I think the very important point, one of the very important point that they brought up, is to do a mapping exercise on that. How do we map out the capacity that that we have? And I can say that Ciel is responding to your questions on engagement. Ciel would like to elaborate on that, and maybe I'll pass it to Doreen. later. Doreen, you raised a very good question. If FCOS is interested to be the implementing agencies through its TCOS network, I think that's the general idea for now. Being from the regional level at Piang into its national liaison unit. However, we are of the view that it's not going to be done entirely by, or some sort of shared responsibility in the implementation. And I know that Tucho have also alluded to, that you already have your pocket of fundings that we can that can be somehow have some prior arrangement towards FALE, not necessarily have to be housed under FCOS, but you have your response fund, immediate or initial response that you as a network have access to. How can that be part of, can be uh, contributed towards the FALE members in that sense, or communities in general. I hope that that answer. We do not have a straight answer for your questions. We bring it to this forum, and we hope that this forum will help us shape that. Do you think, if you feel that FCOS as the implementing agency, what sort of responsibility do we have, or form of towards not only the funding but also the facility in terms of the coordinations and the distribution of responsibility among its members. If you're going to open up membership, what are their roles for the NGOs? How do we articulate different members or different roles for members? So that's few of the discussion that we bring on. So I think that falls right under not only membership but coordination of the FALE. If you have any suggestion, please feel free to get on the mic and to share with us.
So sorry to jump in, just say, but thanks for that point. And I think the reason why I was asking that question was just coming back to the point which Siale and Tujo touched on, was sometimes NGOs take about 3 to 4 days to gather themselves around after a disaster and align what should be done and all that. So through this FALE presence, in-country presence, if we could have that sort of discussions and prep work, organized prior to a disaster, it would just greatly save time, or to have a trigger ready, it would save time in implementing and getting that assistance out to affected communities. And yes, you did mention that this could work through our existing or other networks as well. That's also good. I was just wondering in the TOR if there could be a provision for this sort of access, for example, like through FCOS or DCOS, if it is available and if it could work in partnership with other FALE members, and to be quite clear on how exactly that would work, coming back to contractual agreements and all. And definitely when I suggested that, I am referring to working in partnership, surely. So I'm just coming from the point of, trying to get the assistance or help to communities ASAP, which is the whole intention of any humanitarian, or is the priority of any humanitarian act. Thanks.
Thank you, Doreen. Thank you so much for that. Yes, taking that into account, point of, we can have a discussion later, but for the drafting of the TOR, will definitely make future suggestions regarding that. Siale, would you like to elaborate on the points of engagement?
Sorry, Josiah, I have to run away to the and I'm speaking from Arts and Mother's room. Just to elaborate perhaps on that and you know some of the things that we are kind of talking about now has been put together in many conversations, but now that we are we shape it as we go. But one of the key thinking that we had, because Raducho, what has quite obvious from the Pacific, is you say the structure of the START network, because they are a member of INGOs, they have money to contribute in terms of their membership fee. It's already being an interesting point of conversation in some of our other Pacific Islands, where we recognize that membership fees coming from local members will be not as significant to operate their own FALE. So one of the things that we had quite clear that that there are the conversation also that has come from some of the INGOs that presence here in the region, not necessarily that they had partners in our countries in the Pacific, and they're quite keen to support the Pacific FALE because they find that their work will still be able to channel through the Pacific FALE without them having to go in and register themselves in different small countries in the Pacific. So that is one thing that they are quite keen to support the FALE, because it means that if we are giving them the opportunity to bring their resources to the Pacific without them going and set themselves up in different small countries. So that in that case, we will have the Pacific FALE to cage for that. And it will be given the options to some of our Pacific regional NGOs that are working in Suva. Most of them are working in Suva, but they have partners in country. So the current conversation that is happening is that you have, if you're already in the region and you have members in country, Oxfam, if I could use Oxfam as an example, which I already have this conversation with Oxfam, is that you have the options to contribute. If you want to be part of the Pacific FALE, you can actually contribute to that in a way, in a form that we are still talking about this membership fee and whatever. That's still in the conversation of that, but they will come in as the FALE regional. The idea now is that you want to support your members in Tonga, for example, where Oxfam works with the Tonga National Youth Congress in Tonga. So they will contribute to the Pacific FALE, but they will also need to contribute to their country partner, so that when their partner in Tonga is going to the FALE Tonga, they take with them their contribution to the FALE Tonga. And so for those that don't work in Tonga but still want to see that their support to the regional FALE can go to countries that are not, that they don't present there in terms of the humanitarian support work, the FALE regional can provide for that group. So the regional groups that are working in Fiji, but they have presence in countries, they would like to join the regional FALE, that's fine. if they want to put their support into their country partners, then those partners will have to go through their country FALE. I better stop there before I confuse myself. But that's the current thinking right now, and it seems to be, when we are talking to some of the NGOs that are partner of that are within the START network community, they love that idea, because they don't want to see themselves go through the challenges of going to countries where they would like to work in, but they want to go in there and do all the registrations and all that kind of thing. But they would, they see the opportunity of the regional FALE as a way of reaching out to countries through the FALE without them being present in countries. But those that are working in the region, that they have partners in the country, they can choose to work with their partners in country to provide them with the support, so that when they go into their FALE, they have something to take along with them. Minaka Josiah, and I'm going to be signing out.
Thank you,
Because there's a
Sally.
couple of things for the meeting.
Sure. Thank you, Sally. Thank you for sharing and for clarity. Thank you as well, Doreen. I know that also time is catching up with us. Doreen, I'm noting all the discussion. The record, the session is recorded as well. So maybe Doreen and Tucho and Jeroni Josiah. Oh, I can see Tucho's hand is up. If you'd like to say anything, but also my question, maybe my last question is, how often would you like us to have this meeting? And I know there's an agency for us to have a tour, and also when would be the best time, the best time for our next meeting, and we can set the meeting schedule from our end. Over to you, Tucho and Doreen and Josiah.
Thank you, Josiah. And then thank you, Shelley. I think she's left, but please do echo our thanks to her. Yeah, I think that last bit that Shelley was talking about, it really sort of speaks to us. You know, it's very hard to sort of establish our footprint in a country that we do not have any existing footprint on. And with that, you know, there's a lot of paperwork required for us to go in country to support. But if the FALE, the regional FALE, can be that bridge, then, you know, we should really work towards getting this up and running, because there are opportunities in that space. I think, again, I'll go back to the sustainability part of the FALE. You know, wearing the hat of the FALE, if we are going to, you know, work towards that sort of modality, so to speak, you know, we really need to consider what are some of our overhead costs if we are supporting at the regional level, and if we're doing it at the country level. Again, I say this because, again, these are some of the things that our donors query, you know. So let me just give a very quick example. Say, for instance, we apply for $10 from X donor, and already Plan being the main applicant, we'll put in our overhead, right? But if we want to, you know, push this through the FALE, regional or in country, then we also need to understand what are the overhead costs there, so that we can have a collective. Because to run this will require people, and then people's time is money. That's just how the world spins. So we really need to ensure that we get that sorted. We get that in a draft, and then probably tested, and then see how we float from there. Thank you very much, everyone. That's my 2 cents for
Thank you so much,
this
Tucho.
afternoon. Naka.
Thank you so much. Doreen, would you like to say a few words before we end this meeting as well?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Josiah. I think I just want to say a big vinaka to everybody and for their participation, and of course, obviously, for the time. I can definitely see that the way the discussions are generating and going, I think there lies quite a lot of good work for us ahead, and also there are a lot of benefits and linkages and cross-sectional work that we can leverage from this FALE initiative. And I think like for Oxfam, I think this counts a lot because it has presence in, for example, Vanuatu, Solomons, Fiji, and Tonga as well. But in Samoa, it doesn't. But we have a FALE in Samoa as well, as noted earlier. So I think from Oxfam's perspective, there's a lot of learning for us as an organization at the regional level, but it also gives us good opportunity to think about what we would like to do at country FALE level. So yeah, that's I think once we have more discussions and the TOR is drafted there, I think it should be quite clear about FALE regional and country level functioning. And as mentioned by someone earlier, it's also be good to see how the FALE in other countries are functioning, and see how we can link better. And just through listening to the conversation, I think some of the work from this discussion absolutely links with the some of the other humanitarian action works that our AHP partners and other partners have been discussing and going on. For example, I could see a clear link with anticipatory action. That's something we've been talking about quite recently. So yeah, it's a very good discussion. To say, yeah, thanks for including us. Sorry, I'm glad the meeting is ending because I actually have to run off to another meeting. But yeah, and I think for the meeting, how often we should have, probably, I think for me, once a month would work. But if others would like to have it quarterly basis, that's also fine. But it will be good to keep this discussion alive and going, moving forward. That's all from my end, Pinaka, and thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. Chironi, Josiah Nugada. Take a silence as a no. They would like to say anything before we end.
I'm all good, Jay Pinaka.
Thank you, Te. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. If
Sorry,
no
Jay.
one else, sorry, go ahead,
Jay,
Tucho.
sorry.
Go ahead.
I just recommend if we can have this meeting once a month on a monthly basis, just to keep with the momentum. Perhaps the discussions from today can shape the first draft of the TOR.
Yeah.
So when we meet next, we at least can throw up that first draft, and then throw more ideas in it. And then we'll need to just keep with a very realistic timeline. How many meetings do we then finalize on the TOR, or a specific date that we want to finalize on the TOR, so that at least we can work offline and then in meetings as well.
Sure.
Happy to hear others' thoughts around this. Thank you.
Thank you, Tucho. Maybe I forgot to ask the suggestion that was to open up the membership, or from Doreen. Tucho, for you and Doreen, would it be best to open up this call to other members as well, so that they can join in the next meeting, or shall we keep it to the current members of Start Network for the drafting of the TOR?
I'm an avid believer of opening. Again, this will benefit everyone. It's just how we take it on moving forward. So I would recommend we open, but it will just mean an additional 10 more minutes from your end, Josiah, to provide this introductory once again for our next meeting. Yeah.
Not to worry about. Thank you so much, Tucho, for that, and thank you as well for your time. I know that we would prefer this to be somewhere quiet where we can concentrate. But thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and to join us in this discussion. So I'll try and circulate at least a draft before the our next meeting. But I'm looking at how about the first week of every month, and that would be the first week of next month, and I'll share as well with everyone for your thoughts as well. Maybe we'll keep it to Thursday. Thursday is our time for meeting around the same time as well. Okay, I have nothing else from my end, but just to thank you on behalf of our executive director and also executive director of Piango and the Pacific FALE coordinator who is not with us. But thank you, Josiah, for stepping in. And we'll see you for FALE in the next meeting. But also we'll try and send out communications from this meeting to everyone. Thank you. You have a wonderful afternoon.
All right, Nako Josiah, Nako everyone. Okay.
Okay, Vinaka people.